The year is 1945, and the world is watching Berlin collapse. Allied bombs rain down, Soviet troops push street by street, and deep beneath the Reich chancellery, Adolf Hitler is said to have made his final stand. Official reports tell us he died in his bunker, his body burned to ashes by loyalists, erased by flames and rubble. But from the very first day, whispers crept through the smoke. The bodies shown to Soviet officials? Unrecognizable, charred beyond certainty. Forensic reports? Conflicting. Witness testimonies? Inconsistent, riddled with contradictions. Some swore he shot himself. Others whispered of poison. Some insisted the corpse wasn't his at all. Then came the rumors of doubles, men surgically altered or trained to mimic Hitler's speech, gestures, even his trembling hand. Could one of these doubles have died in the bunker while the real Führer slipped away? Maps recovered after the war revealed something even more chilling. Secret tunnels beneath Berlin, stretching like veins under the city. They connected bunkers, airstrips, even escape routes leading out of the Soviet encirclement. And then, the most suspicious piece of all, forged documents and passports suddenly appearing in post-war Europe, stamped with false names but eerily familiar photographs. The official story was neat, clean, and convenient. The monster was dead, but history rarely ends so neatly. If Hitler did not die in that Berlin bunker, where did he go, and who helped him vanish into the shadows of history? The ashes of war had barely cooled when rumors began drifting across the Atlantic. Strange whispers reached intelligence circles. German-speaking enclaves tucked deep in Argentina, Chile, and Brazil. Remote towns where blonde-haired children marched in eerie discipline, and strange symbols were carved into wooden halls. Locals told stories of a mysterious older man with an icy stare, guarded by loyal followers. He never gave his real name, never lingered in public, but his presence was unmistakable. He lived like a shadow, just out of reach, yet always watching. Some claimed he limped, others swore he still carried the same sharp voice that once commanded millions. The whispers pointed to Operation ODESSA, the alleged Nazi escape network. Smugglers, priests, and even corrupt officials formed a secret lifeline, funneling war criminals from Europe to South America. Safe houses, forged identities, and sympathetic governments created a web of refuge where the defeated Reich could hide and perhaps rebuild. The evidence piled up. Eyewitness accounts of Hitler lookalikes spotted in Buenos Aires cafes. Declassified FBI files from the 1940s reporting sightings of a German man resembling Hitler in Argentina. Unexplained wealth flowing into South American banks, funding villas and compounds guarded like fortresses. But the most unsettling reports came from deep within the Argentine jungle, where survivors claimed a secret compound had been built. Self-sufficient, hidden, and ruled with an iron hand. Skeptics dismissed these tales as wild imagination, but others asked, were they mere coincidences or footprints of the Führer himself? Was it just a look-alike haunting South America's shadows, or did Adolf Hitler himself walk those jungles, plotting a silent return? By the dawn of the 21st century, the world thought of Hitler, if at all, as a ghost from history. His name was taught in classrooms, his crimes remembered in documentaries, his reign reduced to grainy black and white film. But then something strange happened. Across the globe, hate groups began to resurface, not just with old slogans, but with unnervingly precise coordination. Neo-Nazi symbols reappeared in rallies from Berlin to Buenos Aires, from Moscow to Middle America. Online forums filled with rhetoric that sounded less like imitation and more like the direct voice of the past, calculated, charismatic, and commanding. It was almost as if someone, a single mind, was orchestrating these movements from the shadows. Some dismissed it as coincidence. Others suspected copycats, but whispers grew louder. What if the man himself was still alive, no longer a relic of the past, but a master of the modern age? Instead of tanks, he now had the digital battlefield. Instead of speeches in stadiums, he had viral videos, encoded online manifestos. The Führer, it seemed, had traded uniforms and swastikas for firewalls and servers. What if the mastermind of today's chaos isn't just ideology reborn, but the man himself, adapting, evolving, and watching us. In this new battlefield, bullets no longer mattered. Algorithms did. The same man who once mastered propaganda through radio, film, and fiery speeches now wielded the internet like a weapon. Social media became his army, memes replacing posters, hashtags replacing marches, disinformation replacing bombs. Entire elections tilted under waves of fake news. Mobs formed not on the streets first, but in the comment sections. Young people, disillusioned by politics, stumbled into carefully engineered echo chambers that whispered, "The old ways were right all along." Governments scrambled to contain the spread, yet every attempt to silence these voices only seemed to amplify them. The Reich had returned, not with blitzkrieg, but with bandwidth, and the brilliance was chilling. The chaos seemed leaderless, spontaneous, organic. But hidden behind the code, patterns emerged too perfect to ignore. Was it really random? Or was it a calculated campaign, orchestrated by the same hand that once shook the world? If today's digital chaos is not an accident, then who or what is truly pulling the strings? By the mid-2000s, the world began to notice something odd. Extremist groups scattered across continents, skinheads in Europe, militias in the US, neo-fascists in South America, and radicals in Asia suddenly began to move in unison. It wasn't just shared ideology, it was timing. One group would stage a march in Warsaw, another would ignite violence in Rio, and within days, uprisings would flare up in online communities across the US and Russia. It looked as if there was a central hand, a single mind guiding them. Intelligence agencies around the world grew alarmed. How were these groups, separated by oceans and cultures, coordinating with such precision? Was it encrypted messages, a hidden network, or something darker? Some whispered of a secret council, a mastermind who never died, a leader not bound by borders, but operating through shadows, whispers, and keyboards. Could it be that one man, the same man who once set Europe ablaze, was still weaving the web that threatened to strangle the modern world? But here's where things took a shocking turn. Unlike the 1940s when Hitler sought tanks, invasions, and open world war, this new version of him, if indeed he lived, had changed his strategy. Warplanes and blitzkriegs were too obvious, too crude. Instead, the battleground shifted to something far more insidious: culture, politics, and trust itself. Governments were infiltrated, not by soldiers, but by lies. Democracies weakened, not by bombs, but by paralysis, as leaders fought each other instead of their enemies. And the true genius? His allies, global extremist leaders, who once had nothing in common, suddenly aligned under a mysterious, invisible authority. Far-right groups, anti-establishment hackers, religious fanatics, even organized crime, forces that normally opposed each other, now moved with shocking coordination. But this was no Third Reich. This was something subtler, more patient. Hitler, or the shadow of him, no longer sought to conquer nations. He sought to rot them from within. What if victory no longer means invasion, but slow corruption, until one day the world realizes it has already fallen, without a single shot fired? By the late 20th century, whispers began to surface, not just of sightings, but of experiments. Declassified files hinted that Nazi doctors who escaped after the war continued their work in South America. They had once dreamed of super soldiers, genetic purity, and life extension. But what if their work hadn't ended in 1945? Rumors spread of an old man, frail but kept alive unnaturally long through secret medicine, hormone treatments, and untested therapies. Some even claim bioengineering projects had been launched in hidden laboratories where DNA was harvested and stored. And then came the most terrifying speculation of all: cloning. Could it be that Hitler didn't just survive, but was being remade, not once, but multiple times? Perhaps the Führer who slipped out of Berlin in 45 had already died. But his bloodline, his cells, his very blueprint had been preserved. Which begged the question, was the threat now a single man, or a production line of him waiting in the shadows? Is the world haunted by Hitler, the man, or by a science that can make him eternal? But the story takes a darker, more modern twist. In today's digital age, you don't need a body to live forever. Hitler's writings, speeches, photographs, even audio recordings, these are all data, and data never dies. Artificial intelligence has already proven capable of recreating voices, faces, and even personalities. So what if, somewhere on the web, Hitler had been reborn as code? Imagine an AI trained entirely on his ideology, his speeches, his strategies, a digital phantom, whispering to online communities, recruiting extremists, manipulating algorithms. It would no longer be about one man hiding in shadows. It would be about his ghost, immortal, tireless, and everywhere at once. And the scariest part? Governments might already know. Some intelligence officers claim that what we see as random chaos online, the spread of disinformation, the rise of extremist movements, isn't random at all. It's orchestrated by something non-human, but built in the image of one of history's darkest men. If a dictator becomes digital, can he ever truly be destroyed? Or has Hitler already found the one thing he always craved, immortality? Whether alive in flesh, cloned, or digital, Hitler's shadow reshapes the world. Across continents, nations fracture, societies split, and ideologies clash more violently than ever. Populism, extremism, and digital propaganda tear at the fabric of democracy. Governments struggle to keep up, reacting to crises that appear spontaneous, but are secretly orchestrated. Borders may be intact, armies strong, and treaties signed, yet the true battlefield has moved inside human minds. Culture wars, social media manipulation, and engineered mistrust dominate. Communities turn against each other, not with tanks or bombs, but with words, memes, and misinformation. Even traditional resistance fails. Any opposition movement finds itself infiltrated by algorithms predicting their actions before they happen, effectively neutralizing dissent before it grows. The chilling realization: Hitler doesn't need to march armies across Europe anymore. His weapon is division itself, and the world's greatest superpower may no longer be a country. It may be fear, confusion, and ideology. What if the greatest war of our time is fought not on fields or in skies, but in minds, and Hitler's hand is guiding it? Now, in the present day, the ultimate truth comes to light. Hitler's survival might not even matter in the traditional sense. Whether he lives in a secret bunker, a cloned body, or purely as a digital AI, the systems, ideas, and movements he inspired are already self-sustaining. Extremist networks, propaganda machines, and deepfakes have become autonomous. His influence has transcended mortality, making him immortal in effect. The world may never see him, never hear his voice in person, but his ideology silently shapes politics, fuels hatred, and undermines trust across societies. And here's the final twist. Perhaps the question is no longer, is Hitler alive? The question is, has humanity already allowed him to survive through technology, ideology, and division? The age of bullets and bombs is over. The age of digital shadows, psychological warfare, and ideological domination has begun. If Hitler lives today, or even if he doesn't, is his influence already ruling the world we see? Let me know what you think in the comments below.